So today's guest on Talk the Talk with Tribe Title is Bill Maniaci of My Roots Real Estate Group. Thanks for coming on today.
I'm super excited to be here. I always love talking about myself.
Awesome. Well, you're in luck. So real quick, just a couple things we're going to go through, like kind of how you got started. So you've been a realtor for quite a while now, right?
Yeah, I was licensed in 2014, and it's been a crazy ride for the last 8 years.
Yeah. So you've seen a lot of ups and downs then, being since 2014.
Yeah, ups and downs personally and professionally for sure. As far as the real estate market goes, it seems like it's just been going up ever since then.
That's good. I guess you've been in at a good time.
Yeah, I would say.
So I know you talk a lot about numbers and you're really big into the numbers. What's kind of your expectation for the next year, I guess?
Well, that's a really good question. And if you would have told me that, I would have brought my crystal ball with me today, and I didn't bring it. So I'll do my very best about that. I like to think hyper-local, and Livingston County, of course, is hyper-local for myself.
Yeah.
So what I've seen in trends in the past is that Livingston County tends to be affected last and then rebound first.
Okay.
So when there's big hills and valleys, we're more like little hills and more like just little bumps in the road.
Yeah.
We have the highest median income in the state of Michigan, and we have the lowest taxes. And the people here in the county tend to, They tend to be pretty resilient to change and to things like that. So I don't anticipate our local market to have much of a bump at all.
Yeah.
Where we've seen double-digit appreciation the last couple of years, I don't anticipate that. I don't think that's healthy, which is good.
Right.
But a very healthy 4 to 6% appreciation, I think we can expect for sure.
Yeah. Okay. Why do you think that is with Livingston County in general? Do you think it's like people have solid careers, or what do you think makes it so stable?
Yeah, for sure. So a lot of people, 41% of the people that live in the county actually work in the county.
Okay.
So most of the people that live here don't work here. So that and a lot of those people they have high paying jobs, hence the highest median income in the state of Michigan.
Right.
So with job security there, and this being the auto capital of the world, essentially, a lot of those jobs are there. And I think the average age here in Livingston County too is a little bit higher than most. Mm-hmm. So they're established.
Right.
Established careers, established families. So we tend, and I don't know, I guess I'll be a little more biased, but we just seem to get it more than other places, I think.
Right. So a little bit more knowledge financially and not as quick to react to things they hear in the news and things like that.
Yeah, for sure. And not many people move out of the county. A lot of people tend to move into the county. Yeah. So people are established. And if you were to look at the total number of active listings, let's say in Oakland County today, there's more active listings today in Oakland County than we'll have sold listings for the entire year.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
So now you say I find that kind of odd that most people work outside of Livingston County. So what do you think the draw is to all these people to come to Livingston County?
So I think it's always been a commuter place, just because we're within 30 or 40 minutes to every major city in the state, Lansing, Flint area, Detroit, and Ann Arbor. So you can get, my wife and I can work in completely opposite ends of the state and still have a 30-minute commute.
Right. Yeah, that's a good draw. And do you think a lot of it too is like property, open space and things like that?
I think as people get older, they want a little bit more space. I know I certainly did. I don't think I'm old, but I think space was important to me. Yeah. So it's definitely a small town feel. Yeah. With tons of open spaces, and I was born and raised here. I don't foresee myself ever leaving.
Okay. And now, is it true that 2 weeks ago when you went to the airport, that was your first time ever outside of Livingston County?
It doesn't happen often, but when it does, I make it worth it for sure.
So you've been born and raised here, lived here your entire life, and don't see yourself ever relocating. I mean, that speaks volumes to the place, because you've been other places, I'm guessing. Yep. And that's this is where you choose to stay.
Yeah, I have 3 sisters. They all now live in Florida, and they've been across the country from Southern California to Florida and Washington. They love it down there, and I foresee my parents getting down there eventually as well.
Yeah.
So I have a good place to go when I want to.
Right.
But I like the people here. We have good friends. I like the people I work with. I like the people around. I like the community I'm in.
Yeah.
And this is where my business is.
Right. And now, I mean, I think you having the knowledge you do, and like you do the performance coaching and things like that, so you have a pretty good finger on the market and what it takes to kind of be successful. Do you think that if you ever did relocate, knowing all those things, that I'm guessing you'd probably be able to get up and running a successful business again if you were to choose to relocate?
Yeah. So one of the things that I like most about our company at Keller Williams is they teach you how to grow and run a business at a high level.
Yeah.
Real estate just happens to be the vehicle in which they teach you, but the principles are all the same. And I think there's 2 principles to being successful at anything, quite frankly.
Yeah.
And it's to be polite to people and to do what you say you're going to do.
Right.
If you can do those 2 things, you're on the fast track for success, because unfortunately most people aren't polite.
Yeah.
And even more people don't do what they say they're going to do.
Right.
I like to call that integrity.
Yeah. Especially nowadays, it seems like that's a character trait that's kind of going by the wayside.
Yep.
That tells me a lot about you too, because that's one of the first things I ever remember you saying was a year and a half ago when I started. I was sitting in a performance coaching class, and it was being taught by somebody else, but you just kind of popped into it and you were talking. And I think that the person teaching it asked you, like, hey, what's the secret? And that was what you said. You said, just be polite and be nice to people and do what you say you're going to do.
Yep.
And
that's the silver bullet.
Yeah.
I'll add a third thing to that as well, that I've kind of realized over the years, and it's learn people's names.
Yeah.
So when you ask, could I be successful somewhere else if we did end up going to Florida or wherever? Absolutely. And it all starts with being present in the community and then just learning people's names and saying hello.
Yeah. Yeah, that's huge. Yep. It's I've noticed that too as I get older. It's one of the things I try to do when I meet people is try to remember their name, because I always feel terrible when somebody says, "Hi, Brett," and then I'm like, "Oh, hey, how's it going?" And like I draw a blank on what their name is.
Yep.
And then you feel that when you walk away, you're like, "Man, I really wish I would have known their name
or remembered it."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Go in the corner in 5 minutes and check on Facebook. I think it's this.
Right.
I think it's this.
But it feels great when somebody acknowledges you by your name.
Oh yeah.
Because you're like, oh, they know my name. Like that little interaction says a lot.
Yeah. Dale Carnegie says the sweetest sound to any human on planet Earth is their own name.
Yeah. That's funny. That's probably true though.
Yep.
And now with the market changing, I guess, if you will, the shift that everybody talks about, I know you were saying yesterday in a class that you think the next 6 months is one of the best times to buy in the last 2.5 years, and that it's a huge time to buy for these people that were getting outbid and couldn't get the homes, a year ago.
Right. Yeah, and I stand by that. I truly believe that if real estate is in your future, this is the time to strike. While inventory is still super duper low, not only here locally, but across the country.
Right.
And interest rates are higher than I've ever seen. Well, I mean, not ever, because I was born in the 80s.
Right.
But certainly since my real estate career began, what's really good is those high interest rates have driven a lot of people out of the market.
Yeah.
So, and we joked, we were in a class last week learning about a 2-1 buy down.
Yeah.
And we won't go into what that means, but I made the joke of 6 months ago, we were buying sellers' Netflix subscriptions and paying for their closing costs.
Right.
And today we're getting 2.5-4% seller concessions.
Yeah.
In just 6 short months.
Yeah. It's a huge swing.
It's a huge swing. I mean, that could be tens of thousands of dollars difference.
Right.
And with demand still higher than we've seen before, but with, I would say, 35% less people in the market, you just have way more opportunity.
Yeah. And then another thing you said that I think was really important was that for the next 6 months, those buyers that were getting outbid and couldn't qualify last time, this is when they need to strike, because in 6 months, when everybody gets accustomed to what's going on, interest rates start to come down, then they're going to get ready to get back in the market, and they're going to get outbid again and not going to be able to find the house they need.
That's 100% true. So I think the number one comment that I hear from buyers today is, I'm going to wait for interest rates to come down.
Yeah.
I'm going to wait for the market to drop. Well, we don't know if either one of those things will happen. I think we can anticipate at least interest rates coming down at some point.
Yeah.
And when that does happen, all of those people are going to come flooding back into the market.
Right.
There's a book written by Gary Keller called The Shift. And it's funny because when we go into I'm not going to call it a buyer's market. I'll call this more of a balanced market today. But when we get there, buyers tend to run away. And then when we see more of a seller's market, like we've seen the last 2 years, that's when they all come rushing back when it's the worst time to buy, and they run away when it's the best time to buy.
Yeah, I've noticed that. And I started thinking about it yesterday after that, because I started thinking, what's the mindset behind that? And then it seems almost like sheep, like people are scared when not everybody's doing this thing.
Yep.
Then they kind of go, well, why is everybody stopping? Maybe I should stop, instead of being the time to go like, okay, they're all scared and backing out. Now I should pounce on the opportunity. But yeah, it seems like it's a big mindset thing for people, that everybody stops, they stop, everybody goes, they go. And it's kind of the wrong way to do it.
Yeah, it's the masses, right?
Yeah.
Warren Buffett says, when people are scared, I get excited. When people are excited, I get scared.
Yeah, that's probably a good way to look at it too.
Yeah.
So now, as an agent, my thought was, when I heard this and learned about the 2-1 buy down, I thought immediately, like, if I had buyers, I would be calling every buyer I had saying basically like, hey, if interest rates were 5% again, you'd move forward, right? And they would probably say yes. And I mean, that's essentially what they're getting with the 2-1 buy down, right?
Yeah. That's exactly what they're getting. You're getting 2% less of an interest rate up front at no cost to you. And you get the benefit if interest rates do come back down, you end up getting a better interest rate anyways.
Right.
So instead of taking concessions, you get a lower interest rate and a much lower payment each month. It's really a great opportunity to win in this market as a buyer, for sure.
Yeah. And then if rates go up, you're still a genius, because then you're locked at a 7, whereas if they go up to 9, everybody's gonna be like, man, I should have bought when it was 7.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's funny when you look at the stock market, for example.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you dabble in there. I've just started dabbling in individual trading this year.
Yeah.
And Costco, for example, it's like my favorite place to go.
Yeah.
So I buy Costco stock, right? And when I bought it initially, I think I bought it at $500 per share. And it went up to almost $600. And on the way up, I'm like, I bought more.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, oh crap, I wish I would have bought more when it was at 500.
Yeah.
If it ever gets back down to 500 again, I'm going to buy as much as I can.
Yeah.
Right? So what happens? It did. It went to 500. In fact, it went all the way down to 420.
Yeah.
But I was scared to buy it.
Right.
Because, I don't want to buy it and it continue to go down.
Yeah.
I'll wait until it gets to the bottom. And then what happens?
Goes back up.
It goes back up, and I've missed the mark.
Yeah.
So I fall into the same trap as most people buying real estate do,
Right.
and they want to time the market and buy at the bottom and sell at the top. When the smartest investors and the people that have the most money, they know that they can't time the market.
Yeah.
And when they can buy, they do.
Yeah.
When they need to buy, they will.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I mean, especially in real estate, with it even now still appreciating, today is always the bottom.
Yeah. Yep.
Tomorrow's not. So like, why wait?
Right.
Yeah. It's crazy how it works. And now when you said Warren Buffett too, I thought about this. I read this the other day about Warren Buffett. They were saying he doesn't do that. He doesn't wait for stocks to go down. He doesn't buy the low stocks. He buys these companies that are very well established, very much a cash flow business.
Yep.
And he's, obviously got one of the best track records of any investor ever.
Ever, yeah.
But yeah,
that's
it's
incredible.
like learn those tools and do the same thing that these people do. And that's how you find success.
Hey, don't reinvent the wheel.
Right.
Stand on the shoulders of giants and just do what they do.
Yeah. Do you think that your business has changed? So you weren't with KW originally, correct?
I was. Yeah, I started with KW
Okay.
and never left, never will.
Okay. So that was the difference. You were with KW, but you were an individual agent.
Yep. I was an individual agent for 3 years before I joined a team.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what's the benefit been to the team as opposed to being individual?
Yeah. So it was, I was at a point in my career where I had to make a decision, and it was grow a team myself or just plug right into another one.
Yeah.
And just keep running. And if I had to make the decision again, I think I probably would have grew my own team from that point, knowing what I know now. But plugging in at that time, I was really able to start running really, really fast.
Yeah.
And I've made the best relationships ever. So where would I be in the same position I'm in today had I not done that? Probably not.
Right.
So I'm glad I did it. I probably would have done it differently. So if any new agents are listening now, don't always pick the easy button.
Yeah.
Come find me and I'll help you grow your own business for sure.
Now, that being said, is that still a future goal of yours? Do you want to have your own team at some point, or are you just kind of, this is where you're at and this is what you want to do?
So I don't foresee that happening. Where I'm at today, the person in charge, Erin, she'll always grow her world large enough to encompass what my goals are and what my dreams are. And she's always said that whatever it takes, we'll make it happen.
Yeah.
And I think we push each other well enough to run as fast as we can, without being reckless.
Yeah.
So I don't see that happening. And really knowing what I know now, I think my passion is in coaching.
Yeah.
And my passion is in helping others achieve their goals. And my passion is growing businesses as well, creating business. So I don't even foresee myself really being in the buying and selling market much more than 5 years anyways.
Okay. And then, so then you would be obviously going to other businesses and then do more of the coaching?
Yeah. So either starting businesses or investing in other businesses, or diving really heavy into investing into real estate.
Yeah.
And having enough passive income through there to pay my bills, my family's bills.
Right.
And then still have a team on the back end that do buy and sell for the people that know, like, and trust me.
Right. That's a great idea. I noticed that the other day when Justin Oliver came in and spoke, and he was saying his goal was to get to $20,000 a month passive income through real estate investment.
Yep.
And I started thinking about that when I left, and I'm thinking, like, that's a ton of money. That would be great.
Yeah.
But a guy like that who's doing all those things, I thought, well, why limit yourself at 20,000? You know, I'm guessing I don't know what he makes, but I would imagine a person like that with that kind of drive probably makes close to that now. Mm-hmm. But then I started doing the math, and I'm thinking, like, okay, this 20,000 kind of hedges itself against inflation, because as he owns more real estate, with inflation, rents are going to go up. So he's automatically got that built-in inflation gap.
Yep.
And then on top of it, as these properties get paid down, then he has, even more money in equity. So I'm like, it's kind of genius, because that 20,000 keeps snowballing into what would eventually be, when they're all paid for, probably 200,000 a month.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And when you pull money out of those properties, when you have equity, that's tax free.
Yeah.
And with that much real estate in your portfolio, I'd be willing to guess you won't pay a single penny of taxes every single year.
That's crazy. Is that kind of what you're diving into as far as the learning, the kind of loopholes around things like that? Yeah.
And I wouldn't call it loopholes. I would call it doing what the government wants you to do.
Yeah. Strategic.
Yep. So every year they have different ways they need help with what they're trying to do, and what they always need help with is housing.
Yeah.
So if we can be the person that's building or buying and then renting to people, that's something that they don't have to do.
Yeah.
So they give you a ton of tax benefits as being an investor in real estate.
Okay, that's awesome. I just learned that right now, so I never even thought of that. But that makes sense. They need the rentals so that they don't have to provide government housing and things like that.
Yep. And not necessarily each year, but each new president that comes in, they typically make some changes to different things. Mm-hmm. So when Trump was in, he made some changes. When Biden came in, he's made some changes. Trump was heavy into real estate. Obviously, he's Donald Trump. Joe Biden is heavy into renewable energy. So you can get a lot of tax benefits now by investing in renewable energy.
Yeah.
And agriculture and things like that.
Yeah, that's cool. Now, the thing that scares me and probably a lot of other like first-time investors or anything like that getting into the housing market was like the thing when there was the pandemic and they said, you don't have to pay rent.
Yeah.
I mean, that has to be a scary proposition for people that have a ton of rental properties.
Yeah, it certainly was scary for an awful lot of people. And I don't know this for sure because I wasn't in the rental game then.
Yeah.
And I think they did get some help through the government because of that. And of course, they can always show a loss for that year anyways.
Yeah.
So they didn't pay any taxes there either.
Right.
That is scary. I don't know if that's ever happened before.
Right.
And I'm not sure if that'll ever happen again.
Yeah, hopefully not.
I would look at it differently and say that's a good problem to have.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I guess if you have all those properties, you're doing something right.
Yeah, definitely. I would just go into it saying that if you can't afford to pay it without renters, it's probably not a good idea to buy it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's very true. Now, the other thing you said was investing in businesses. I'm guessing you read a ton.
Yes.
Because that was one of the other things I read was about somebody that wants to live a great life, invests in other business. They never want to be the boss because they're like, the boss doesn't necessarily make the most money and the boss has all these obligations. Yeah. Whereas if you invest in businesses, it's better because you're just an investor and you get the money without having to do a whole lot of the work.
Yeah, so that's another one of those huge tax benefits is investing in business as well. And it's hard because I like to be in control in everything that I do.
That's funny you say that. I'm going to get to that in a minute.
And I've learned that leverage is probably my favorite thing in the world.
Yeah.
I mean, other than family and stuff like that, obviously. But yeah, so investing in business, you have an opportunity to coach other people running that business and just kind of give your knowledge because let's face it, people are lazy and they don't want to read.
Yeah.
They just want to hit the easy button. They just want to sit back and collect. Well, I like to read. I like to learn. I always think that I'm either growing or I'm dying. I'm never sitting still. So which way am I going today?
Right.
And learning is going towards my goals. Yeah. So if I can help other people run their business better, that's where I want to be.
Yeah. I like that. And you said that in the meeting the other day too. I love looking around the room and seeing the faces when you said like, if you're not growing, you're dying. And I would venture to say that most of you that didn't raise your hands are going backwards.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of that reality check where people don't like it, but it's probably the truth, and somebody has to say it to them.
Yeah.
So the control thing, I'm glad you brought that up because that's what I was going to ask you about. You seem like you like control. Obviously you seem like you're very regimented as far as like when you work out, what you eat, how you run your day to day. And I was going to ask you because those characteristics are kind of the opposite of what real estate is, because real estate is very out of control and very, volatile and ups and downs. So is one of the reasons why you read so much and so well the numbers and statistics and all that stuff, does that kind of give your mind the control of where you kind of see where things are going as opposed to it just being reactive?
So I think the biggest reason why I do all of that and research the market as much as I do is, probably mostly for just control of my confidence.
Yeah.
But I also know that when somebody buys a house, it's probably their biggest investment they've ever made.
Yeah.
And whenever somebody sells a house, they're probably selling to that point the largest investment they've ever made.
Right.
I take that very, very seriously. And shame on me if I'm not the best person in the world to help them do that.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where my head's at with that is if you're selling a $500,000 asset, you better get the most amount of money for it. And you better make sure that your butt's covered legally with all the documentation. And my job is to help you with both of those things.
Yeah. No, that's huge. And that's why I think it's big too. Like now being in the world I'm in and seeing the difference in realtors, to me, that's one of the biggest things. You know, if I have a realtor, I want somebody that really knows what the hell they're doing, because there's a huge spread of, you know, no knowledge and people that know, like yourself, a ton of what's going on and what's coming and all those things. That's why I think it's so important that people, you know, whether it be interview or get to know who that is that's going to be selling their house. Not only that, but like Keller Williams, the steps that they have in place, like the performance coaching, the things like that, where they're constantly trying to make their agents the best in the business. And it shows. I mean, look at the numbers, you know, statistically wise of Keller Williams in Livingston County as opposed to other brokerages.
Yeah, we've surpassed, late last year, we surpassed number one in the county as far as units sold. This year we surpassed units sold and volume sold. And it had been the same company, well, as long as I can remember. Yeah. For my whole life living here. So that's super exciting that we've done that, and we've done it with integrity. We've done it with being polite to people. It's always a win-win situation, or it will not be a deal. Right. And I absolutely love that. And just knowing what to do, how to do, and when to do it is super important. Yeah, I agree. And it's cool too to see, obviously, like you said, you've been with Keller Williams since you started, which is awesome. But we have a lot of people that come in from outside of Keller Williams, and they're like, man, I've never seen anything like this. Like the camaraderie in the office, the fact you'll help, like you're a high producing agent. And if somebody walks up to you and asks you a question, like you're not going to snuff them off. You're going to sit there and take your time and help them figure out what it is they're trying to figure out. Yeah. So with reading and listening to podcasts and talking to people that are better than me, you learn real quick that having a scarcity mindset is a pathway to nowhere real fast. And switching that around and having an abundant mindset has been one of the biggest realizations I've had in my life, not only in business, but in general in life and family and love and friendship and everything. I couldn't possibly sell all the houses. I wouldn't want to sell all the houses. Yeah. I wouldn't have any time to do anything else. Right. There's plenty of real estate to go around. And if I can help somebody else accomplish their goals, I think that's the ultimate goal to success, is helping somebody else achieve their goals. Yeah. And you'll always get to where you want to be. Right. Yeah. No, that's a good way to look at it. And I'm guessing it's probably very rewarding too. Like you've had a lot of success on your own, but it's probably equally as rewarding to see somebody come in that's brand new, scared, doesn't know how they're going to pay the bills, and then you help them and coach them along the way and then see their success in a couple of years. That's got to be extremely rewarding. It is. It's super fun. Seeing the smile on their face when they have success is as fun as seeing a first-time home buyer get the keys for the first time. Yeah. Where I struggle with and I work on every day is, instead of telling, I try to help people self-realize. Yeah. Or instead of giving them the answer or giving them the material, right, showing them where they can find the answer, I think is more important. Yeah. So I noticed too, you're really into like the real comp. And I think it was maybe a year ago, you taught a class on real comp and how to get around. And it was like mind blowing to the people in there, like how much stuff you can actually find in there that they had no idea. Yep. But like you said, it was cool because you don't just give them the answers. You show them how to get in there and find the stuff they need themselves, and then in turn, it's helping the company because they're offering a better service to their clients. Absolutely. The best way to learn something is to teach it. Yeah. So if I can, instead of showing you how to teach something, you're going to learn it way better than just watching me do it. Yeah. And you learn stuff too. Cause I think during that class you were like, oh wow, look at this. And you like found something new in there that you didn't know was there. Yep. And that's called masterminding. Yeah. Get in a room with a bunch of people and 11 people having one idea. Now everybody leaves with 11 ideas. Yeah. Whereas if one person has 11 ideas, not everybody's leaving with a new idea. Right. Yeah. Or you sit there and try to keep it all to yourself and it's pointless. It's absolutely pointless.
Yeah. Now, as far as the performance coaching, that's, I know that's voluntary, but to me, that's one of the biggest benefits to KW. How come some people don't take advantage of that?
So I think most people are scared of accountability, and that's what it mostly is.
Yeah.
Is me holding you accountable to you doing what you say you're going to do.
Yeah.
And that's scary it's scary for me too. I have several coaches, and it's scary to be accountable to them. I don't want to say I didn't do something.
Yeah.
So it's a lot easier just not to be in it at all, so I don't have to stay accountable to it.
Which is scary too, because it's like that accountability is the one thing that's going to get you to where you want to go.
Absolutely.
So it's like just cross that threshold, throw yourself into it, and then, God only knows where the limits are.
Yeah, it's a scary word, and I've learned to deal with it, and I love dishing it out.
Yeah,
for sure. And not just in real estate, but I'm a personal trainer as well at my gym, and the accountability I have with people there is probably harder than I do with realtors.
Yeah. I still have to get in there. I made a promise that I would. So one of these early mornings, I'll get in there.
It's fun. It's fun.
Yeah, that's cool. Now, how did you get into that part of it? Because I know that was I don't know what your background was as far as working out. Were you like big into the gym before you started using it as a networking tool?
Yeah, sort of. So just the beefcake style, go to Gold's, do a bunch of upper body bicep curls and chest press and bench press, and just try and get swole.
Right.
I love doing that, and I probably learned that from playing football in high school.
Yeah.
So once Gold's Gym in Howell closed down, I was kind of lost for a while. And right around that time, somebody had opened a gym here in Howell called True Fit.
Yeah.
And I had a limiting belief that my bad shoulder would prevent me from doing all that cardio work and burpees and push-ups and things like that. So it took me about 3 years to go check it out. And it wasn't until my wife had been there for a few months that she drugged me in there one day. Yeah. It was actually for a Halloween party. So I went there and I met a bunch of people, and I fell in love with it. I fell in love with the people. I fell in love with the space. Started almost immediately after that. Yeah. And initially I was just getting back into shape, enjoying myself, feeling much better about myself. At that time, I had just read the book, The Miracle Morning. Yeah. By Hal Elrod. And I tend to take things very literally all the time. Yeah. So I just to me, it was like a textbook. Do this, do this, do this, do this, do this. Right. So that's what I did. And it was no surprise that first year when I joined the gym and started implementing that Miracle Morning, my business quadrupled. Wow. That year. And it's gone up ever since. Yeah. Not only just from the regimented morning to the workout routine, but also, like you said, using the gym as a networking tool as well. Yeah. And that's where I learned to learn people's names and say hello to them every time I see them. Yeah. All right. And and it's one of those cool things where now holding yourself accountable to that, it's like you built that kind of fail-safe mechanism into your business where now like you have to be in shape because now it's part of your business. Yeah. Yep. Which is cool because that's the hardest part for people is staying committed. But if it's part of your business, you have to. Yep. In the beginning, a couple of my friends would tell you this too, but they asked me, well, why do you work out here? And I said, so I can eat what I want to eat. And it still holds true now, but getting a little bit older, I find that eating the right things is probably a little more important than having a donut every day. Right. So. Yeah, it's weird how that works too. I did that right before we went to Mexico. I started really watching what I eat. And I work out casually, but I started watching what I eat. And Dominic and I were talking back and forth, and I was like, what the hell is Bill eating? You know what I mean? And he's like, dude, he just eats whatever he wants, but he just works out enough that it doesn't matter. Yeah. And I was like, man, that sucks. So I started eating, like counting calories, eating salads and stuff before our trip. But it was funny because as I'm doing it and I'm eating that stuff for lunch, I'm like, man, I feel good. Yeah. As opposed to like where I eat something that's awful for me. And then I'm just like, after lunch, I'm gassed and I want to take a nap. Yep. So it's like, just
again, to that threshold, like just go do that thing you don't want to do. And like the results usually are good enough that you won't want to go back to the other way.
Yeah. You do it long enough and it just becomes a habit.
Yeah.
And long enough doesn't have to be very long. I mean, it was probably 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Right. And now all of a sudden it's like, man, I just need like fruit to feel better.
Yeah. Yeah. And fruit, salad, vegetables. Like, yeah, it's crazy as opposed to just crap.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like the same with anything in business too. It's like, if you would just, it's like you said, even when you went into the gym, it took you 3 years to realize that. And like, had you just taken that step 3 years sooner and quadrupled your business, I mean, it probably would have changed, your life, at least in the short term.
Definitely. I wouldn't have sold my first house. I would have kept it as a rental.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have needed the money from selling it.
Yeah. Now, in regards to rentals, I know you're kind of getting into that world now. Do you currently have any rentals, or are you working on anything?
Yeah. So this year we bought a duplex in Fowlerville.
Okay.
And we're keeping that as just a long-term rental.
Yeah.
Buy and hold. And then we also bought a home that we are flipping this year as well. In fact, we are putting that on the market today.
Nice.
So it's been a fun experience to kind of go through. I'm curious to see what we did that we didn't have to do.
Yeah.
I'm curious to see what we should have done that we didn't do.
Right.
I'm curious to see how close I am to, my anticipation of how much it costs us to do it and how much we can sell it for. So it's definitely a learning opportunity for sure.
Yeah.
As long as we can just break even with this one,
right,
I'll be happy.
Yeah, for sure. It's weird too. And like, as you get further in, you'll realize, like I've done 5 or 6 flips, and each one I would realize like certain things, like I just had to dial back, like it's not my house. It's, let's go with this lesser finish. Let's go with this. And then I realized also there's some things that, like you said, I should have put in that I know would have made a huge difference and probably not cost a ton of money.
Yeah. So I used a stager for the first time with this, and I don't know why I've never used a stager. It really wasn't that expensive, but holy cow, what a difference it made.
That's what I've heard.
And, just looking at a vacant house versus something with furniture.
Yeah.
Especially the homes that are like, what do you do with this space?
Yeah. Yeah. Those awkward spaces are where people can't envision what they would possibly do. But then, you put something in there, you're like, oh, that's really cool.
Yeah. You just said a word that made me think of, and that's having the vision. And that's another good opportunity for people buying homes today too, is there's a lot of ugly houses on the market.
Yeah.
Those are probably the ones that are still on the market. And what a great opportunity to take an ugly house and turn it into something that is absolutely spectacular. That's what we did with our first home.
Yeah.
We did a renovation loan. We bought a house. It didn't even have walls. I mean, it was down to its studs at that point. And we ended up selling it for almost 3 times what we bought it for.
Wow. That's huge.
So, I mean, not including what we put into it, but most people just don't have a vision.
Yeah.
And that's another good reason why hiring a professional realtor is super important.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially one that has experience doing that type of stuff and can tell you, that's like, I love watching the shows, and they always go through and they're like, rip that wall down.
Yeah.
That's like the number one thing people say. And it's like, well, it's not that easy. You can't just rip every wall down,
Yeah. You don't even have to rip walls down. You just make it better, make the space better.
Yeah. No, it's interesting you say that. So now this one you're doing as a flip. Is there a reason why you're flipping this one as opposed to keeping it as a long-term rental?
Yeah. So I think the goal is to, by this time next year, have 3 more flips completed, so that now we're done spending our own money.
Yeah.
And now we can just start using the proceeds from the flips to buy new properties to buy and hold with.
Right.
And then just always keeping enough flips to continue to use that money as down payment.
Yeah. And I mean, what a great job to be in to figure that out. I mean, that's one of the hardest parts, is finding the homes to flip. That's where I always struggled, was finding that right property. But I mean, it's your job to look and see everything that's on the market.
It's my job to scour the market every day. And every time I walk into somebody's home, the first question I ask myself is this a home I should buy?
Yeah.
First, before anything else, is the first thought always goes through my mind.
Yeah. That's awesome. So where do you see yourself in, let's say, 5 years? Do you want to do a similar thing to like a Justin Oliver? Are you hoping to have a set number of homes that you can keep as long-term rentals?
Yeah. So I think in 5 years, I think the goal is to have somewhere around 15 or 20 homes that we're renting and then continuing to flip 3 houses a year.
Okay. And do you want to do most of the work yourself, or
No.
are you doing contractors?
I would love to not do any of the work myself.
Yeah.
I found that the only time I had to do the work was on the weekends, and I love my weekends.
Yeah.
So just being able to build in that extra cost for contractors is going to be key for us.
Yeah. No, that's the way to do it. Because then it's like you were saying, just more leverage.
More leverage. Leverage is beautiful.
Yeah. So then in 5 years, your goal would be to be out of the buying and selling, have your long-term rentals, be flipping houses. Obviously, you'd always keep your license active, but
yeah. So I'll be a team lead essentially.
Yeah.
Where buyers agents are always, I hate saying it, but answering to me.
Yeah.
I'm probably still going on some listing appointments, but not many. But just kind of being that face of the main reason why people are coming to us to buy and sell with.
Yeah.
My goal is to, when somebody raises their hand and says, I want to transact now, I want to buy, or I want to list,
Yeah.
my job is done. And I hand it off to my team. My job is that 10 years in between that, the 10 years between people when they buy a house to when they buy another house.
Yeah.
My job, I think, is to hold that relationship strong throughout that whole time. And when they raise their hand again, I have got a team that they can expect to handle the transaction better than I would myself.
Right. And then part of that, I'm guessing, I mean, you've probably built a lot of great lifelong friendships in the process as well.
Oh, absolutely. You meet a ton of people, and I always try and learn something from everybody for sure. And people come from all walks of life. So it's definitely interesting to hear their stories and where they came from.
Yeah.
And like you said, just getting those lifelong friendships is really quite good. In fact, one of my clients, he texts me every holiday, every birthday, anything you can think of. Anytime he paints a bedroom, he sends me a picture of it. And at the time, he was probably my biggest headache client I've ever had. And you just never know what you say to people or how you interact with people and, what it means to them.
Right. Yeah. And I love what you say about being nice, being polite too, because it's like one of those things where it's so consistent. If that's your consistent behavior, at some point they know that's you. It's not you trying to sell them something. It's not you trying to suck up to get the deal. That's just you, and they can trust you and count on you.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that. It's easy for me because it is me.
Yeah.
And yeah, being fake is hard. I learned that lesson early on. Dressing up in a suit, a tie. I would come to work in a suit and tie every day and just be a stiff and just kind of do what I thought a realtor looked like. Yeah. And I walked into one of my buddy's houses one day, and for a listing appointment, he goes, "What the hell are you wearing?" I'm like, I don't know. He's like, "Take that jacket off." I'm like, "Thank God." Yeah. And ever since then, it's just me. You get me every time, no matter what. Right. Now, are there certain circumstances where you do have to dress up? For sure. Yeah. But most of the time, you're not going to see me in a suit and tie. Right.
Which is cool too, because like you said, it's just you. Like once they know you, trust you, it doesn't matter what you're wearing. They know you can handle the business. They know the statistics. They know what's going on in the market. Like, who cares? I just want the best return on my investment.
Yeah. They want their house sold for the most amount of money in the least amount of time, or they want to buy a house, and when they see the house they want that one. Yeah. And that's my job.
Right. That's awesome. Well, it's been great talking with you. Now, if a newer agent's listening to this, which hopefully they will, because they can always learn stuff from them as well. But how would a newer agent reach out to you if they were looking to maybe make the jump to KW, or they're with KW and wanted to take advantage of the coaching to get to the next level?
Yeah, I love phone calls. Emails are nice, but you never get as much out of them. Same thing with text. Yeah. So I love talking to people face-to-face or over the phone. So calling me on my cell is the best way.
Okay. And then we'll share all that in the bottom of the links. We'll share your cell phone, email address, Facebook, all that stuff. Yeah. Well, thanks for coming in. It was awesome talking with you, getting to know you a little bit better. And if anybody's out in the market looking for a house too, I mean, Bill's probably if not the smartest realtor I know, right up there with him as far as what the deal is. So reach out to him.
Thanks. If I'm ever the smartest realtor in the room, I'm definitely in the wrong room.
Right. Well, I just got to make you feel good too.
Thanks.
All right, man. Well, thanks for coming in. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Brett.